Hey, what's up, guys? It's Michael Cup here with Full Stack Creative.
And I'm Ignacio with Full Stack Creative.
We're here to talk today about the Audient ID line and how it compares with some of the other item lines. Man. What? You got me self-conscious about the others.
I'm sorry. Like it's his
All right,
turn.
stop.
This is what you need.
Console and all the preamps and converters. Now, if you want to kick it up a notch.
Much more high-powered camera. When you're shooting with this,
Overlapping frequency ranges and just masking. It's an incredibly useful tool.
So the line ranges from the ID4 to the ID14 to the ID22 and the ID44. Right here today we have the ID14 and the ID44. This is like middle of the line and this is top of the line.
We found that they scale up in quality, so
Yeah.
mic preamp conversion, headphone output all get better and better as you go up in the price point.
So like one thing that I realized early on while I was in school working with Audient consoles was that they sound really good and they're simplistic, they're solid build. There's not a whole lot of extra special features that you're really like breaking the bank over. These preamps are very solid. They compare, if not surpass, a lot of what you can get with other lines like the Apollo,
Claret.
the Arrow,
Yeah.
Antelopes, even the Apollo Mark II.
Right, the Apollo Quad.
So the Apollo Quad Mark II, I think right now is ranging for what, like $1,200? Whereas like the 44 right here, which has a lot of features that do compete, you can get for like half the price.
Yeah. I actually went through this morning comparing the Audient specific specs to the Apollo Quad specs, and what I was looking at was mic preamp gain, dynamic range, the signal to noise level of the pre's, and the quality of the conversion. The Apollo Quad only surpassed the Audient in all of those fields by like a dB, if not two. I think one of the most important things that oftentimes gets overlooked is the fact that this piece of equipment has to transmit analog signals into digital signals for your computer to be able to interpret them, and then back out into an analog signal for your speakers to be able to interpret and play it back. It is one of the most absolutely important parts about picking an interface. And we've come to find that, you know, Audient, like their preamps are based out of the same topology as the ASP 8024, which is like a console that's been in use for over 2 decades now, with bad conversion. Specifically,
It's something I think we've experienced a lot.
so much when people send in home recordings, especially, and
a lot of the mixing that I end up having to do is from people that like they want to send in their tracks that they record at home, Focusrite Scarlett, or something more like budget oriented. When you're working with it, it seems like it's doing its job, but then engineers, you know, like ourselves, when we start to work with it, these deficiencies will really start to show.
yeah, they start to pile up.
Yeah, they'll pile up big time, especially when you have multiple stacks of vocals. That's when you start to get like little like clicks and pops, just an overall anemic sound that doesn't really stack up to these sorts of boxes. And
I think on the ID4 they used AKM converters, which are still really solid. But once you scale up to the ID14,
well, then you get two inputs.
You get two inputs, two mic inputs, a DI,
a mic line switch.
Right, exactly. And the converters are upgraded to Burr Brown, which are absolutely stellar. One day after Circa purchased this lovely ID44 here, or actually Michael, he compared the headphone amp on the ID44 to this proprietary digital to analog converter. It is the FiO Olympus 2.
I believe this cost me like $60-$70 when I got it, and all it does is digital to analog conversion. You know, you plug it in USB to your computer system, and then you get a little headphone amp, and it sounds pretty spectacular. But flipping between the FiO and the ID44, there was definitely like a big difference in like soundstage and separation, like in the panning, depth of field, just felt a little bit more rock solid. I think Audient did a really good job with keeping these simple. With the 4, I mean, you just get like 3 knobs on the front of it, and then like the little controller encoder there. The mixer software is pretty simple, especially on the lower model lines. When you get up to the 44 or the 22 and the 44, it starts to get, there's more to it. You get more channels to work with, and you can route things further because there's more options. But if you didn't know what you're doing whatsoever, you could just plug and play. Especially with the ID4, you just plug in a USB, go to your DAW, select it, you plug in a mic or instrument, and your signal is there. There's nothing really tricky about it. It's that easy for you to go from not knowing anything to achieving a good sound, especially something that you could send to an engineer further down the line if you felt like you weren't really up to speed when it comes to mixing or mastering. You're gonna have like good ingredients or a good starting point.
So vocalists, singer-songwriters, this is for you. I mean, with 2 inputs, you can do vocal and guitar, you can DI in, multi-tracking.
I mean, if you were to Google like acoustic guitar and vocal miking techniques, I mean, there's a couple different things you can pull off with just 2 inputs that would be really interesting, especially if, because of its simple design, you actually spent less time fiddling with it and more time trying out new things with your recording, and makes for a better product for sure. Even like Cirque's wife or fiance at the time had hit us up. I think it was like his birthday or something. But she's like, I need to get I want to get an interface for Cirque. What should I get? And she asked you, and she asked me.
She hit us with the same price point,
and we both ended up
recommending the same thing.
Recommending the same thing, which is cool because that's how it like really put this particular model in my hands because of the work that I do. I remember we actually tracked guitars
and vocals.
We tracked guitars and vocals for County Graves, for his song County Graves, with that interface. Yeah, no, it's like one of my favorite sounding recordings I think I've ever gotten. Yeah, and that was done in like the living room.
Yeah. And rap with the picks on my thing and anything I play, you gonna get to understand. And I'm not boasting and bullying yet nobody, but I can pick guitar. Don't you think I can't? Shed my moonlight on the county grave. Shed my moonlight over county grave. Tell my Lord I am a stubborn one. And
a similar story is that one night I had invited a friend from school, incredibly talented singer, songwriter, musician. A session got booked for the main room, so we ended up using the B room, and he was like, oh, I really want to get some vocal recording done. So I was like, okay, let me see what I can do. So I ran in here, I snatched up this ID44, set it up just with like a headphone feed, and we plugged in, I think it was like a 15-year-old electro voice dynamic microphone into just like the first input. He was giving like this really, really gentle, very soft kind of performance. And then when I started like working with it and enhancing it, and I was just working with it on headphones and was trying to move just quickly to kind of like push it into like a sound, like just where I know he wanted it.
Right, like the song.
It fits into the arrangement of the song and what his voice is doing. Yeah. And then I remember bringing it up on the speakers and just being like, whoa.
Yeah, it sounds good.
This sounds really good. Yeah.
There was that, did you end up pushing the 87 with this too?
We did the 87 as well, yeah. We pushed a Neumann U87 AI and this mystery electro voice microphone, which I believe was the DS35, I'm not sure. For both, it was absolutely spectacular, yeah, definitely. I love how it was very like unsparing in its ability to display like the best of two microphones that are very far away from one another in terms of like their build and what they sound like, for sure.
I plugged in one of the little like the pocket operator Teenage Engineering little pocket calculator synthesizers. When I ended up pushing it through these preamps and like really like I would crank the output on the synth and leave it kind of low, or I would lower down the output on the synth and crank it up here, and just the span of like sounds I was getting out of it, I felt like I had multiple synths, which was impressive because we get to work with preamps that are kind of staples in like high-end recording setups, and I didn't feel like it was all that necessary for me to explore using those with the kind of thing that I was using. It seemed very almost like DIY, but it delivered.
If you're a singer-songwriter, at-home artist, or just someone who does a lot of
producer,
their
even like just a beat maker.
yeah,
like,
definitely. Just somebody that does the majority of their composition and arrangement and production tasks at home, and you're looking for kind of like an all-in-one solution for good monitoring, good pre's, good conversion within the $200 to even $700 price range. These boxes are incredibly tough to beat, even on the lower end models, which we found to be like extremely impressive. You know, on the ID44, exactly,
yeah.
on the flagship, obviously everything's really, really great at a $600 price point, but when you scale down to, you know, $200, $300, everything is still comparable, everything still holds up. For someone in that position, I really don't think there's like a better option on the market right now, for sure.
When it came time for us to upgrade, we were like, well, let's just stay, you know, let's keep it with Audient, and we jumped up to the 44, and then we realized, let's just keep the 14, like, don't sell it, don't give it away, and just expand upon what we have now, which is great too, because you can just have multiple units doing different jobs. 2 extra pre's, we could run 6 pre-input, 6 mic inputs.
And because the digital faculties don't suck, everything works.
Yeah, everything's gonna work
Everything works really well. So if you like this review, make sure to like and subscribe, because we're going to be dropping new gear reviews, new tutorials every single day. And thank you guys for watching.